We are going to get started here on game number 2 between Root Mini and Root QXC. Ignore that inflow tag. He is a member of RootGaming. Minigun is up 1 game over QXC, taking a quick win with a 4-gate. It was really well executed given the circumstances where he delayed QXC's build with the gas steel. Really great job by Minigun taking a quick win. Now as we move into game 2, we're on Metalopolis, basically the standard map. It'll be tougher for Minigun to steal his gas from this map since it is a 4-player map, and chances are they will be a decent distance apart. And as we do get onto the map, we see the Minigun is going to be the teal Protoss in the top 12 o'clock position, and QXC is going to be the purple Terran at 6 o'clock, both representing RootGaming. Terran versus Protoss, Metalopolis. Cross positions, it's going to be a long ways. QXC is going to be a little bit safer going for a tech build. Banshees are really good on this map, so we'll see if he goes for that again. Especially in the position that Minigun is in. If you look at the map, like down where QXC is, there's not as much like room behind the base. But over Minigun's base, there's all this space over here in the corner behind both of his bases. So that's actually a really good position to be harassing with Banshees, because they can fly like out into the corner of the map where you just can't reach them. And we'll have to see if he's going to go for the same thing or if he's going to do something different here on Metalopolis.
Yeah, Mini's going to throw down his gateway, obviously, noting that he doesn't build at the ramp or anything like that. Really, for any new aspiring Protoss, it's a general strategy, obviously, when playing against Terran, especially in a kind of a corner map like this where your platform is edged out. You don't want to be building your wall or anything at the ramp there. Marines, Marauders able to harass from the low ground very easily, especially if you're trying to just wall in and get onto one base something. So really good strategy here. Force them onto the high ground. Use sentries and other a pylon or something to lock them into the high ground here and kind of shred them at the high ground. So Mini does that very well as QXC's getting his scout off first. He will reach, they'll reach the base actually about the same time. Mini is going to scout cross positions slightly faster, but no real difference from that. QXC does have the exposed gas. I don't know if Mini's going to try the exact same thing. I would expect not. I expect he's probably going to play now that he's
going straight for it.
Nope. He's just going to go for it. Never mind. I was going to say I expect him to play a little bit more macro, but he might just try to win this really quickly again, just get that 4-gate out. So that does definitely block QXC's tech path. He's going to be a little bit more limited getting a factory down and getting anything out really quickly. So we'll see what Minigun does now. It's going to be in balls in his court, basically. As Warp Gate research has just started there.
He's going for factory again, so basically the same sort of thing that happened last game. Minigun did not actually manage to scout the factory this time, but he did see the fact that the barracks does not have an add-on. So he might be aware of the fact that QXC is going for the same sort of build. And there goes a bunker at the front door of QXC as well. So it looks like he's going to be rushing straight up to Banshees for a second time, which is rather risky. The cloak play versus Protoss is much more risky than versus Terrans. Some players will even go as far as saying that it's all in. It's not quite necessary, but it is rather risky, because if you go Cloak Banshees, it is quite a heavy investment, and if it does not do a lot of damage, it can set you quite far behind. So you can see that he is going to be building this tech lab right next to the starport. Those are going to switch, and then he's going to fly the factory over to finish walling up, like he did in the previous game. On this map, if he places a pylon down next to the statue, he can warp up onto this little outcropping area very easily. It's a very easy place to warp in reinforcements from for the Protoss player. So we'll see if he does the same sort of pylon placement as he did on Xel'Naga. Oh!
Yeah, it looks like Nexus from Mini there. So yeah, and Mini is going to take the opportunity to go into a macro game, not throwing down any gateways, instead getting a Nexus Robotics, and a second gateway just started. So he is still only on 1 gas, so we're going to see Mini get into more of a macro play. So this is going to be very effective, I think, for QXC's Banshees. We saw Greetor versus Kiwi Kaki on this exact same map, short air distances, but Greetorp was very effective with his use of Banshees in this map, just because, as you mentioned, Railcoon, there's really open ground, lots of space behind the bases, lots of ways for a Banshee to escape. So QXC is going to get onto that, and he's going to be... I think he's going to be successful, actually, with a little bit of harass here, as Minigun is going to go on to a macro play and just force him to be very effective with those Banshees there.
Yeah, and QXC, seeing this, is actually building his own command center, so we are going to be moving into expansion versus expansion here. First Banshee is out onto the field. Cloak is nearing about halfway completion, and the Banshee is going to fly in the middle of the map, going to take out any units on both the watchtowers, just to make sure that Minigun does not have any map vision. It's a good thing to do, just to clear off these watchtowers whenever you're moving out with some sort of aggression. But you can see that Minigun already has an observer out, and he's getting a second one. So he might be able to park an observer in both bases, and this is where it becomes dangerous to be going for Cloak Banshees, because if they can shut it down very effectively with just an observer and a couple of stalkers in each base, then that's a lot of resources invested. And when that happens, what a lot of players will do is they'll try and force the Banshees in and like try and kill as many probes as possible, and they lose the Banshees. Yeah. But it's much better just to keep them alive and make them as part of your army composition, because Banshees are a really strong unit. You can just mix them with some bio and have a really good push later on in the game. So hopefully QXC can keep these Banshees alive. He's not really going to suicide these unnecessarily. He'll be trying to keep them alive, but Minigun's going to be trying very hard to kill them, and if he gets any of these early Banshees, that's going to be a big hit for QXC.
Yeah, Minigun throwing down a Stargate right there just above his robotics facility as the Banshee from QXC does return. Observers in great placement for Mini. He has 2 observers in both expansions with Stalkers on hand, so he is not going to take much harassment from these Banshees. They're not going to be as effective as QXC needs them to be, as one Banshee falls, the second one being chased away with only 0 kills. So QXC wasn't able to do the damage he was looking for from that tech path. He is going to have a Raven out right now. It's going to start charging. That is the transition, as you mentioned. Want to be able to use those the remaining living Banshees now that they have been denied. I'm wondering what Mini's going to do. He's going to get a Phoenix started actually at this Stargate, as he throws down a robotics bay as well. Waiting for we're gonna wait for Templar Archives and Twilight Council to come out really quickly as well. He's just gonna build everything here, it looks like right now, as Mini is starting on Phoenix and gonna be going to Colossus as well very shortly.
Yeah, Phoenix Colossus is actually a really nice unit composition, because if you think about it, they do bonus damage to the Banshees, doing 20 damage total. They have a really quick rate of fire with 2 shots. So they run the point defense drones out of energy very, very quickly, since every fire at a high rate of fire from a Phoenix will take off 20 energy from it. And, oh no, don't fly in the Marines! And Phoenixes also tear up Vikings, which is the common counter to Colossus. And then they're able to also lift up important units in the battle, so if your opponent goes for tanks at all, once things start going in your direction, you can lift off a couple tanks, and just if you control the Phoenixes really well, they're a really good support unit for this Gateway Colossus composition. So instead of getting the second robotics facility that you see some players get, he's just making Phoenixes out of the Stargate. So he's just going for Gateway units plus the Colossus, and then the Phoenixes supporting. And if it is somewhat control oriented, because you have to control the Phoenixes very well. But if you do that successfully, it can be actually very difficult for the Terran player to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. QXC is going to be just doing the standard response here, getting that bio army up. It's going to come down to timing. If he does let too many Phoenix get out, like Mini is just kind of cranking them out now, it is going to be very difficult, as you see one SCV already being sniped just before that armory finishes. So QXC is going to have a lot of harassment on his hands. I think he'll be able to deal with it. The bio army here that is generated from this this transition is generally pretty formidable. It allows QXC to be a lot more mobile. If he is somehow able to kind of stim up and shoot down those Colossus, it leaves the bio army very vulnerable. You don't need to make, as you mentioned, you don't need to go onto Vikings. If you can just get that bio army to pressure correctly, you can survive there. Also, the point defense drone does negate Phoenix Fire, so a little bit of extra defense for your Banshees that are going to be your primary DPS there. So we'll see which way QXE goes. He's getting a Thor out right now, and a third command center started. So he is going to keep on his macro game and I think he's going to look to just kind of control the map right now. As obviously Minigun's answering the exact same timing. Has his third Nexus started and is looking to just kind of hold out and just mass up his army at his natural there.
Yeah, and with this Thor on the way, if he switches into heavy Thor Banshee, that's the unit composition we've seen used to counter just Phoenix Colossus in the past. Because the Thors destroy Phoenixes very easily. If you upgrade the Strike Cannon, they can take out Immortals and Colossus very easily because it just does so much damage and it stuns them so that they can't do any damage while they're being taken out. So curious to see if he's actually going to get the stat Strike Cannon upgraded, something we've seen quite a bit in TVP recently. It is kind of a difficult unit composition because you need a good number of Thors and a good number of Banshees. So he's using this Bio Army to supplement it while it's still building up, and he is going to push up into the third base of Minigun. He's going to be able to force that Nexus to cancel. I believe he canceled it. Yes, he did. And then probably just going to back off as these Colossus get here because he really doesn't have enough forces to be fighting this, but he's going
throw down
for
the
it.
Point defense drone and actually get to work here. As 2 point defense drones do go down, but yeah, definitely 4 Colossus being the difference there is just not able to get through the meat shield basically of Minigun's gateway units there. So QXC loses his entire ball there, so he is basically starting from scratch. Tough encounter there as the Colossus did need to be addressed somehow. I guess QXC obviously thought the point defense drones might last a little longer, enough time to cut through that Bio Army, the Gateway Army. It wasn't. And now Minigun's going to be able to just kind of answer back here with his own harassment as QXC is forced to kind of restart his army and just to play really defensively now. As obviously Minigun, you can see, is taking the gold expansion. He's going to be a baller pretty soon. So he's double expanding because he knows he just put QXC back on his hind legs there.
Yeah, and that's why, Phoenixes can actually be really good against point defense drones because they just run them out of energy immediately with the 2 shots and they fire so quickly. So there are some Vikings out on the field, and in just about even numbers, it's surprising. Go test it out sometime. Phoenixes win. It's mostly because of this thing right here. Vikings don't have any armor, and they have very low health, and they fire slower. And the Phoenixes are faster, so you can't kite them. If there's Marines shooting them, then yes, the Vikings will win. But in the middle of a battle where it's Vikings on Phoenixes and the ground units on ground units, the Phoenixes are actually going to win that engagement, assuming there's about even numbers of Phoenixes. So, he only lost 1 Colossus there in that last fight in exchange for that entire army and a Thor. QXC just finished a fusion core though, so he's switching to battle cruisers, which makes me a happy nerd. But I just don't think that's really going to work, just because he just lost his entire army, so he's behind. And switching to battle cruisers when you're behind really doesn't work out that well.
No, absolutely. And there's Void Rays already on the map for Minigun. He's got 2 Void Rays out and will have the production capacity to kind of ramp up Void Rays if he needs to when he scouts, or if he scouts the Battlecruisers. So Battlecruisers is a very, very risky move. Only 1 Stargate with a Tech Lab right now I see for QXC as he's kind of scooting around there taking out the watchtowers. He can see that the gold has been taken, so it will be the battle here. This will most likely be obviously every battle's a pretty decisive battle, but Viking's going to move in first, going to be chased off by the Phoenixes. They are grouped up. 1 Viking falls, and QXC's kind of on a run here. Really bad position for QXC to engage here as he's kind of all in a line, and those Colossus were able to fan out by quite a bit. So really good recovery from QXC. He did not engage. He pulled right out of there. Only cost him a little bit, one or 2 Vikings and a handful of damage on the Marauders. QXC has secured his 4th expansion. No saturation just yet. There it goes. Turrets being thrown down and refineries being thrown down. So he does have double command center in his 3rd base there in the 5 o'clock position. So I wonder if he is going to try to take the 2 o'clock really, really early, but siege tanks coming out with siege mode, and that battle cruiser is coming out. So we'll see just basically an all-in mixed composition from both players. High Templar being warped in for Minigun right now. Psystorm under research, air weapons, and +2 ground weapons for Mini. So a little bit of everything in both players' camps. So it's good to see. I wonder which. Basically, this is the TVP. Which army is the better army here?